Well, with me in the studio, Ronnie O'Sullivan with 7 UK titles and the 1992 champion Jimmy White. And in terms of Triple Crown semi-final lineups, is this, I can't remember a time there was two such hot favourites.
No, on paper, you've got to fancy both the top seeds to go through today and this evening. But these two Chinese lads in their previous matches have played some unbelievable snooker. Admittedly, in their last matches, in the last round that they both won, they didn't play as good as they have been playing outside on the back tables, but they've got a bit of experience on the winning on the match table today. So it's a big ask for them. They've got to play out their skin to have any chance.
So there you go. There's a little bit of doubt straight away. Maybe they've learned a bit from those quarterfinals. Ronnie, can you add any more jeopardy? Because this is the real world. This is live sport.
Yeah, I think out of the two matches, I suppose Zhou Yuelong got more of a chance because he's had more experience. He's played a final the shootout as well. He's already played nil in the final. I know he took a heavy defeat, but I think he would have learnt from that and realised where his game needs to be at today if he's to have a chance of winning. The other match, obviously, Lu Ning hasn't really had much experience. This is the first real result that he's had on tour. But like Jimmy said, he made 4 centuries in one match on the bounce. So, if he's capable of doing that, and he can produce that type of snooker, but doing it against Judd's a different, proposition to doing it against one of the lower-ranked players,
Well, we've stood here and witnessed many a shock over the years on Eurosport. Now, semi-final Saturday would not be complete without our ace in the pack, the one and only Neil Foulds. And he caught up with Judd Trump after his victory over Kyren Wilson and before his big semi-final shootout.
Judd, I guess it's a different kind of expectation this year to last year. You came here looking to hold all the Triple Crown events, but you're still under pressure, I suppose, because you've won so much since.
Yeah, it's always going to be expectation when you're number one in the world, and I think especially when Ronnie went out, there's always going to be a lot of pressure trying to win. Sort of everyone expects to win every event I play in, so it's just important for me just to keep going out there enjoying it, not put any expectation on myself, and when I do get to the latter stages, just kind of raise my game and see what happens. Yeah,
I think you've played well in patches this week, haven't you? Not every match, I say, you've been at your best, but you've done enough. You're not quite coasting, are you, at this stage?
No, I think it's probably where I like to be, really. Whenever I've won my big events, I've not played the best at the start of the tournament, but when I play these top players like Kyren or Neil or Ronnie, I always sort of pull it out of the bag. So it takes a lot for me nowadays to sort of really get up for a game. It kind of got into the winning habit, playing so often, it can be quite tough. So for me, it's just sort of one step at a time, and I don't really care how I win. It's just about getting that win.
Lu Ning, you probably wouldn't have thought he would be your opponent, but you did play him once a couple of years ago, and I looked it up, match with a lot of centuries, I think 5 centuries in that match.
Yeah, I played him once, I think, and he was incredible, I think. I think I might have won in a decider and kind of thinking, where is he? Why has he not done better? And he's kind of done the same again this tournament. He's made loads of century breaks, scoring very heavy, and he's quite a methodical player, so it can be quite tough, especially if he's playing well, making the centuries. You can be sat in your seat for sort of 20, 30 minutes, and it's sort of a very tricky combination to play against. So again, I'll have to play sort of at my best from the very start, put him under pressure. He's obviously not been in this position before, so it is crucial for me to get off to a good start against him.
Jimmy, let's talk about off the table with Judd Trump. His 2020 draws to close. His temperament off the table, it's exemplary.
It's unbelievable. I know we go on quite a lot about his brother, but for me that has been, the key for him, having his brother with him, living with him, practicing with him, keeping him sharp, telling him, his good points and his bad points. They become a very good team. And he's so tunnel-visioned at the moment, Judd Trump, and his armoury of shots. For me, his shot selection, he's using all that power at the right time. And, and he's creating chances a bit like this man on the right from nowhere.
Perfect time to set. Let's have a look at some of those sublime shots against Kyren Wilson. First 3 frames, Ronnie was almost unplayable in that frame 3. So many shots you guys were picking out and saying that is absolutely world class.
Yeah, like Jimmy said, winning frames from nowhere, really. So you can sit there and you think, pretty safe, get back to the table pretty soon. But within 1 or 2 shots, it can be game over, So this really was a great part. OK, you got a little bit fortunate with a kiss on the red to stay on the pink, but then you think, well, where's my next red coming from? And he kind of drills it across the table, and it's a fantastic shot. And even this one, you think, well, OK, well, he's got to get in the colour now. So, you know, he's only one red to take on, boom, in it goes, and all of a sudden you've got 7 or 8 reds out in the open, and you're thinking, well, OK, I'm probably going to lose this frame now. So, you know, that can put pressure on your opponent because, you know, he's making winning breaks from virtually like, no chance. Yeah. If you look at it when he comes to the table, you know.
Unbelievable, 4 shots. There's one shot I want to show Jimmy from frame 6. Just talk me through this shot first, and then we'll have a chat.
Yeah, this is an incredible shot. He's come the wrong side of the blue here, and he drills it in with screw and right-hand side. So when the white hits the right-hand cushion, it sort of arcs. And if anything, he's overhit that. You know, he's hit that so good.
Yeah, it's a wonderful shot, Ronnie, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, he's just got a phenomenal amount of cue power, and to be able to get so much juice on that white ball, you know, he can play shots like that. Like Jimmy said, you know, overdone that one a little bit, you know, he didn't...
Jimmy had a wee shiver when he watched that shot live. It brought back a certain memory, and I'm delighted to say, because of the fantastic Eurosport production, Jimmy, we can relive that now.
Yeah, this was, you know, even Alex, the great late Hurricane Higgins here, he actually overhit this one. When he hit this one, he's come here, he's actually on nothing. You know, OK, he's ended up, he pops the red into the green pocket. It's a shot for nothing, but he's overhit that one as well. That was the frame in 1982. I've nearly got over it. Getting close.
Sorry to bring that up to you. Let's chat about Lu Ning and, you know, the player who's came from nowhere. You look at his best that he's managed this date. We're in his semi-final at the Gibraltar Open. An amazing week. Yeah,
brilliant, and really happy for him as well because, whenever I go down to Sheffield and practice, he does about 9 hours a day. So that's a lot of snooker to do to not get a lot in return. So if anyone deserves to have a good run in the tournament, he does, you know, because he's put some miles on the clock, you know, and he puts the practice in. So you always want to see someone get something out of that, you know. Yeah. So to make it to the semi-finals of the UK Championships and to play Judd, it's going to be a great occasion for him. And who knows, you know, he could pull off the shock of the century in snooker terms in a way. If he does win, it would be up there with probably the biggest shots of all time.
It would be huge. Every shot live in Eurosport tonight. But when we come...
Winning has been hard in terms of like actually getting a trophy, but you've been in 2 fantastic finals.
Yeah, my performances so far this season have been really good. Scored very heavily, made a lot of centuries. And got to 2 finals, and I feel as though it's a matter of when I'll win one this season rather than sort of thinking long terms ahead. Coming into this season over the past 3 years, I've won 8 finals out of 12, which was really good, but then I've lost the last 2. So if you look at the amount of finals I've played, it's probably sort of 3 or 4 short of what Judd's played. So myself, Judd, Ronnie, Selby, we've won a lot of events. We've had a big piece of the pie, I suppose you could say, the last 3 years.
Is there a nice bit of like rivalry in the century department with yourself and Judd? Because I know that I was watching you play and you missed out on just making a century narrowly, and it was a very important frame that you just won. I thought, he's actually seething. You looked absolutely
Yeah, I'm like that in practice, though. I hate not making centuries. I've spoken to Stephen Hendry about it, and he said he was exactly the same. Even in practice, if he missed on 90, he was absolutely furious. And I'm the same. I like making them. They're good fun. People like seeing them on TV. They like when we have crowds, people big cheer when you make 100. So I think it's a really nice part of our game that we have the opportunity to sort of have that kind of statistic in the game, I suppose. It's like a footballer scoring a hat-trick or something like that.
There's been a little bit of a gap of a few years since your last Triple Crown victory. Do you ever think about that?
No, but I mean, I won the China Open, which is our second biggest ranking event. So, the champions won a couple of those, and there's other tournaments you can kind of put up there. I think the champions most certainly goes alongside the UK Masters for me. The China Open as well is a massive event now. So we have more events which sort of rival the prestige of them now, whereas before, the year I won the world title, I won the Grand Prix, which was considered kind of like 4th major in the game. I won the Grand Prix and world title, which was, I won 2 out of the 6 ranking events. So, we played in 6 ranking events 10 years ago, and look at it now, so it's amazing.
There could be a few more tournaments maybe added to that list of the big 3, but maybe it's a big 4 or 5 and maybe a 6.
Yeah, hopefully, adding more, wherever they come from, you certainly take them.
15 frames, he's only won one. He's 15-1 down. He lost 9-0 and 6-1. And that is a little bit of a barrier. But I do think that when he beat John Higgins, he proved something. He'd never beaten John Higgins before, and John Higgins is a heavyweight of the game. So he's getting better, and I don't suppose Robertson was the man he really wanted to play in the semis after those two hidings, especially in that final. Yeah. But he's going to have to deal with it, isn't he?
Yeah. If Robbo plays like he played in the first 3 frames yesterday, it doesn't really matter who's against him, because it was just wonderful.
Yeah, but equally Zhou could possibly do that to Neil as well. He's had 14 centuries this season. He's young, he's learning. This could be his breakthrough season, and if he's going to do it, he's going to have to do it the hard way. He's got a tough player today in Neil Robertson, Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think that's right. I mean, he's a very tough player, Ronnie, isn't he? And, if you go back to the World Championships of last year, the one that Judd won, the first week, everyone was saying, look, Robertson, you might as well just give him the title right now, because he's just playing too good for everybody. So sometimes the wheel does fall off somewhere, because sometimes, players that do things so precisely and perfectly lose their thread a little bit.
Somebody said to me this week, and I kind of thought it was daft, but then I think it's not too far off. Actually, Robbo always looks invincible until he gets beaten. And I kind of stuck with me now. I've thought about, it's kind of maybe that meticulous, or the wheels come off.
That English Open final, right, where he played Judd in the final, I honestly don't know how he didn't win it, because really he was a better player all day. Judd has just got winning ways, beat him 9-8 in the last frame and made a century. That's how he won it. But you felt that Robertson was always going to win. He was, I think, 7-4 up. He was in a healthy lead, and he couldn't get the job done. So sometimes, look, he's not winning enough tournaments for us to say he's a certainty in anything, but he just looks great when he looks great. Yesterday, what he did to Selby, he just dismantled him.
There's losing to a player, Ronnie, and that happens. You might lose 6-5, you might lose whatever. He's been whitewashed in the European Masters. Robertson's cleaned his clock, really, like 9-0 in 2020. That must leave a scar.
Not his age. I think he's young, and he would have just seen that as part and parcel of his sort of progress, if you like. And you can put, if he gets beat 6-0 today, you're going to go, hold on a minute here, that's different. But I think he would have learnt from that and come in with a different mindset. Maybe that final was just happy to make a final, whereas this one he's maybe thinking, well, I want to win this match today, and that's a different mentality from happy to be here to thinking, no, I want to get in the final of this, and playing to win,
Yeah, well, listen, we got the perfect man to talk about how good a form Zhou Yuelong's in. So let's get the practice table and our James Warren White.
Thanks, Colin. Zhou Yuelong, I played him in the second match, and he hardly missed a ball. He had a 95% pot success rate. He had 2 90s and 2 centuries. I think his strengths are his long potting. He's very, very good. He's not the tallest lad on the circuit, and he was very comfortable with the rest. He never missed one shot with the rest in the whole match. And I think he holds the rest the way you should do, is where your elbow and your forearm is straight, and get down and, just use the rest as though it's an extension of your arm, and try and get the right side of the blue. Never missed a ball with the rest.
Thanks to Jimmy. And as you've touched on before, beat Jimmy in the last 64, but beating John Higgins has to be something that you take in that lets you think, well, OK, if I can beat a great like that, I can beat anyone.
I think last year, another good result he had, which makes you think he's maturing in the World Championships. Again, not the most recent one before. He beat Mark Allen, and he had quite a deep run. I think Ali Carter beat him in a match he could have won. So you've got to have a real good game to do well at Sheffield in a long tournament. So I think he's getting there. He's not as spectacular as some of the other Chinese players. I think Ronnie will agree that you see someone like Zhao Jintong, the left-hander, looks amazing. But this is a guy that's actually doing well,
Yeah, no, definitely. He's very, very more clinical sort of play. He's solid, and you just look at his results. He's consistently getting deeper into tournaments. So, like I said, this isn't a foregone conclusion. If Neil comes out and plays lights out snooker, then it doesn't matter who's sitting in the chair. But if he gets a chance to have an impact on the game, I think he's better placed now than he was like 12 months ago to take advantage of it,
Listen, if it always worked out according to what the form book said, according to what the history said, we wouldn't bother watching live sport. We'd just go to the theatre instead. That's written in advance. We know how it's going to end. Let's talk us through some of the times that presenters have stood throughout the ages. Des Lynam's give you the wink. Vine has said, don't worry, it's in the bag. And it's turned out completely differently.
Yeah, of course. This is a very big event, so you just assume right now, we believe it's going to be Neil Robertson and Judd Trump tomorrow, but it isn't as simple as that. It's just now a question of whether the guys, because really Lu Ning, who's playing tonight, he's played so well. He's been the player of the tournament in some ways. It's a question of whether these two Chinese players can now do it again on a bigger stage against a better opponent, because really their player's been good enough to win.
Yeah.
Whether they're thinking that way, I don't know.
And history has it. History has it. Joe Johnson springs to mind straight away, world champion.
Yeah, and Doug Mountjoy, he won this tournament. He beat Stephen Hendry in the final, and no one had give Doug a chance, And it wasn't just playing anyone in the final, he was playing Stephen Hendry.
Yeah.
He beat him, and then he goes on to win the next tournament as well, and then didn't hear from him after that. But, like you say, he had that little spell where everything went great,
Yuelong to break.
The head-to-head doesn't make happy reading for the man breaking off. They played twice. He's lost twice. He's only won one frame from 16 played. Of course, the last meeting was 9-0 in the European Masters final in Austria at the start of 2020. But it's all on the day, Dominic, isn't it? And he's got to believe and he's got to feel that he's earned his place here. He has a right to be here, and of course he can win.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, indeed, Dave. Zhou Yuelong, a very quickly improving player, still just 22 years of age. Only made 16 centuries last season in its entirety, but already he's made 14, and the season's hardly underway, so a quickly improving player.
1.
But with pots like that from Neil Robertson, it could be a long afternoon again for young Zhou Yuelong.
Well, already he finds himself in a spot of bother.
Neil Robertson 1.
Yeah, Robertson's got to be confident, not just the fact he's in the semis, how well he's played in this tournament, particularly yesterday against Selby.
Yeah, how about that for a start, though? First pot, new table, new cloth. Didn't touch the sides, and already Zhou Yuelong with something to think about. To say, Zhou Yuelong, quickly improving player from Chengdu in China, which is home to the research centre for giant panda research. Been there myself, a wonderful establishment it is. I've played Zhou Yuelong a couple of times, but more recently in the Championship League, and I don't think I even had half a dozen shots. He beat me 3-0 with 3 centuries, 2 of them total clearances. It was the most incredible performance. So that's the sort of snooker Zhou Yuelong's capable of. And if you can find that sort of form here today, you could certainly cause Neil Robertson some problems.
But if he doesn't, then, don't know about giant pandas, he could be an endangered species himself. He's already in trouble, and one of the problems here, of course, is red's opened up. So just take a bit of thinking about, add into the fact it's one of the biggest matches he's played. I know he's been in a couple of finals, but this is the UK Championship with all its history.
Trying to get into the back of the pack of reds here, Zhou Yuelong. And I'll tell you what, he'll be absolutely delighted with that shot. There are all kinds of opportunities there to make a mistake, but somehow he's found the back of the pack in complete safety. Well played.
Yeah, and I think Ronnie made a good point about the 9-0. He is young and there's time to get over those sort of scars. John Parrott, 1989, lost 18-3 in the World Final to Steve Davis. Biggest match you can play. And I'm sure there were people there saying that, that could destroy him, it could destroy his confidence. 2 years later, he won the title. He beat Davis in the semis. So maybe that's something to grasp onto. Not that Zhou Yuelong would remember that, because he wasn't born, obviously, then.
Yeah, sportsmen generally are just not that fickle. A 9-0 defeat, yes, of course it hurts, but it's history, and all players and all sportsmen know that. They're only interested in the present, the here and the now. And don't forget, if Neil Robertson does beat Zhou Yuelong 9-0, he obviously played terrific snooker to do that. And there's no guarantee he's going to play terrific snooker today. Every day is different.
Absolutely right. Running and running and running.
Foul. Yuelong 4.
I think the check side that Neil Robertson had on the cue ball there may have enabled this cue ball just to pull in slightly towards the pocket. Did seem to, just ever so slightly. It looks a bit sort of top jaw there, but it got closer to the pocket 4 with every roll.
Can he get in here, get himself settled? Not quite.
Clean pot there from Neil Robertson, a man who for me possesses probably the best cue action in the game today. It's just so fluent and so straight, there's very little that can go wrong with it. But this isn't a great scoring opportunity. Black's tied up, but at least the pink's accessible. That was a great camera shot, wasn't it? One you hardly ever see.
6.
7 centuries in the tournament from Robertson's previous 5 matches, so he scored well. He always talks well. We saw the interview with Rachel, you know, always says the right things and always very confident. Of course, looking to
7.
win the UK Championship for a 3rd time, 2013, 2015, were his 2 successful years.
It reminds me a little in interviews of somebody like a Roger Federer. Neil Robertson is very modest, very affable, gives a lot of credit to other players, and there are certainly some within snooker that don't do that.
I think Neil would accept that comparison with the great man. I'm not sure how many languages Neil speaks, though. I know Federer speaks at least 4.
13. $14.
Well, with a cue action like Neil's, which is so flat, it's very unlikely he'd have jumped the cue ball off the bed of the table there, so that must have been a kick. But something I wasn't quite sure about was the fact that the pink spot was occupied, so that's going on the black spot, and that's not such a bad thing for Neil.
Just mindful of that red on the baulk cushion, as the referee will be as well.
Oh, hang on. Oh, it hasn't fallen. And you're right, Dave, that slightly hampered cueing was the cause of his problem there.
14.
Yeah, it always kind of looked like it was not quite online. Never sure, though, if it's just going to go in off the jaw, but as you can see, it didn't.
Did just look as though it leant ever so slightly towards this bottom jaw on its path to the pocket.
Well, either way, Zhou Yuelong delighted, I'm sure. He's a bit of a prodigy himself, of course, won the World Amateur title when he was just 15. And at 17, won the World Cup for China's so-called B team with Yan Bingtao.
1.
Remember, if he wins the match, he's in the Masters, so that's another It's another nervous afternoon for Tepchara Nu after last night with the Joe Perry match.
Tried to take the opportunity there to break into that little group of 6. It was a decent sort of target there, but not quite enough backspin or right-hand side on the cue ball. Slightly trepidant start from both men at the beginning of this semi-final. Still best of 11.
Yeah, I think semi-finals can often be nervy because, of course, it's such a big prize. You come all this way in the tournament. Of course you want to be in the final. And you know you're going to be playing someone in form.
Well, finally he spotted the 2 reds. I was just looking at them myself and wondered if they may be a plant. Well, they are. Well, I can promise you, Zhou will be bitterly disappointed if he doesn't make that plant. All he's really got to do is try and pot the first red because it's a dead straight plant.
Well, what a result to be on it. Having failed to get into the bunch as intended. But take anything that comes along, because plenty will go against you as well.
He may not have seen that plant had the red in bulk been accessible to Zhou Yuelong. He'd have probably just seen the red in bulk, played a safety off it. But the fact he was snookered on it, he had to look for other options. Oh, but he's missed the blue as well. OK, it may have hidden the pocket, but that was a chance.
Yeah, a bit of a nervy start. I suppose, as you said, inevitable. He covered the pocket with the blue, but obviously very disappointed to miss it, having dug out the plant. $15-1. That's not the game show. It's the frames tally between these two. Robertson having won their 2 previous meetings, so neither were close.
Chance for Neil here to maybe play a thin edge off the reds and get that cue ball in behind the green, if you can, on the bulk cushion. Always caught the jaw here. No obvious harm done, I don't think. There may be a possible red, the topmost one that may just pass the blue. But can Zhou Yuelong get past the yellow to play it? Just hit through the cue ball there. He completely lost the timing and the finesse of the ball strike. All signs of nerves.
Yeah, in that final that he lost 9-0, his highest break was only 47, so just didn't threaten to score, really. Robertson had a couple of centuries. Lots happened since then. That was January. Of course, that tournament's been back on since. Mark Selby won it in early season. Zhou Yuelong couldn't play in the World Championship. He was one of the Chinese players still in China, so missed out on the opportunity.
Well, that was a far better shot from Zhou Yuelong. Struck beautifully, close to the pot. Got a very good cue ball. Neil can't get to the red that's next to the blue, he has to be a little bit careful here with the safety shot. The 2 reds behind the pink spot, he could play a safety from, but there'd be a big risk of knocking a red towards the right corner. Can't get through to the red that's potable to the right corner because of the brown. So he doesn't have anything easy to play by any means.
These first frames, they can be significant. Remember the quarter-final at the Crucible, Robertson played with Selby, first frame an hour. A real grind, Selby won it, and Robertson was never quite the same again in that match. And that was a 3-session match.
Yeah, this has got the feel, hasn't it, Dave, of one of those first frames. Whoever wins it, you feel could settle right down. Even somebody as great as Neil Robertson, who hasn't started this match in quite the style that we know he's capable of. Short of pace. Now there is a potable red to the right corner. I just wonder if Zhou Yuelong wonders if he can get that cue ball through a gap in other balls to play it as a shot to nothing. Could be a gap there. And there was.
Foul.
Well, that's unlucky.
Neil Robertson, 4.
Well, the red to right corner was cuttable. Neil had to play it with a lot of check side to guarantee the cue ball running back to Bolt, but misjudged it. Again, all signs of playing on a new table, a new cloth. It takes a little bit of getting used to.
Yeah, I think people, Dom, will be interested to know how different it would be. I mean, it's the same cloth, it's obviously a different role, but would it be dramatically different from yesterday?
Well, in conjunction with the fact that the cue ball and all the other balls actually will have been sanitised because of the COVID situation, it can create a rather slippery surface. So basically, when you play a shot with side spin, left or right of the cue ball, the mass of the ball is to the other side of the side that you apply into the ball. And that causes the cue ball to deviate the opposite way on the cloth, and you have to judge that. So even when you break off with a trace of side spin, you're working out the way the cloth is playing or the ball is reacting on the cloth all the time, and you learn with every shot you play. So it does take a bit of getting used to.
Well, all the signs are there'll be plenty of time in this frame to get used to it, because there's not much happening at the moment. These reds all gathering round the black on the top cushion. He's pushed one out here, though.
Just to further qualify what I was saying, whenever you use side, it's almost like a mini swerve. And I remember the great Australian player, Eddie Charlton, who Neil will, of course, be very familiar with, tried to eradicate the use of side spin entirely from his game.
1.
Well, this great Australian is not the red in. Yeah, for those of you who don't remember Eddie Charlton, if you're wondering what his style of play was like, his nickname was Steady, so that will be a clue.
Yes. Bing bong.
Lovely pot, though, from Robertson.
sure the red Neil will want to try to get onto is the one that's closest to the pink, one that's in open play. But then from that, I'm sure he's going to look probably for an angle on the blue to go into all those reds and develop them.
Seven.
Our referee in charge of this match, Desislava Botsilova, would have been watching that one very intently.
Eight.
Well, Neil's not on this blue quite as he intended to be. It's the red in the middle of that little group of 7 that will pop.
Thirteen.
Just didn't give himself enough angle on the blue to create the power necessary to break open that little group of reds to his liking.
Chance to just free the black here.
You, Robertson, 13.
Yeah, he miscued that, Neil. It sounded like a miscue, and the way he's chalking his cue tip there tells me it was.
And maybe that's why he's having the white cleaned. A bit of chalk has imparted itself on it.
Yeah, when you miscue a ball, it leaves rather a clod of chalk on it.
Cagey old start then, 21 points in the frame. It's only the 4th ranking event semi-final that Zhou's appeared in. It's Neil Robertson's 41st.
A few signs to me that suggest this table isn't running as truly as the players would like. That wouldn't have been human error. The fact that he's left this red on.
One. Seven. Eight.
course, needed a few opportunities to secure this first frame. But this could be the last one that he requires. He's got a useful 29 points lead. Not too much more required to secure the opening frame here.
$14. $15.
May have the opportunity here, Neil, to play a cannon into the two reds together to promote one of them. That's if he feels that the top one doesn't pot into the left corner. Didn't quite work out.
$21.
No, it was almost certainly frame over if it had done.
Neil Robertson, 21. Foul and a miss. Neil Robertson, 4.
I think Zhou Yuelong immediately realised he hadn't hit that one quite hard enough. He's just trying to leave awkward queuing for Neil Robertson, for the red near the far right corner.
46 in front, so red and a blue or above. Zhou would need a snooker.
One.
Yeah, the blue, if he potted it, would put him 52 in front. Played a good shot, didn't he, in behind the black. He put pressure on Zhou there to cover the red, or at least make it difficult.
Yes, it was a cleverly selected shot choice by Neil to do that.
And that's nicely done. Obviously not having to play for a red meant he wasn't going to leave a pot on if he missed the blue. One snooker needed.
6.
So maybe a different start to yesterday against Selby when he came out blasting in the breaks, but he's always sort of been in control of this frame. Zhou's had a few chances. Robertson happy to see the red go on the cushion. One snooker required.
6.
Yeah, it looks like he's in one himself here on all three reds. Oh dear.
Foul Neil
Left
Robertson,
the red
4
on,
and the
and
frame.
he's nodded his head. So quite a lengthy opening frame. It's gone to Neil Robertson, who extends his frames tally against Zhou Yuelong to 16 plays 1.
Break.
I think snooker players often fall into two camps. Some kind of forget matches they played. They just look to the future. They can't quite recall results. Neil Robertson's the exact opposite. He knows every match he's played. He knows every frame he's played. He's just got one of those minds. He retains it all. And he's very conscious, I think, of his position in the game, his legacy that he can secure in the next few years, winning more major titles. He's already, right now, the game's most successful non-British player with everything he's won, but wants to really climb into the pantheon of greats, I guess.
Yeah, it's amazing that one of the game's great players in Neil Robertson, multi-ranking event titleist, wants to immerse himself in the history of his own performances within the sport. Most players like to divert themselves with other interests, but not he.
Double kiss, meanwhile, from Zhou. Robertson got a good cue ball there.
He's beginning this match, Yuelong, as though he's playing somebody who he almost idolises, that he's got this infinite respect for.
One.
Well, I think that's where, previous matches have to play a part. If he's been completely outplayed twice, you can understand why he would put Robertson on a pedestal.
You're Robertson, 1.
Just slightly misjudged that, trying to get the white on the cushion.
Well, I suppose I'd have to call that a little rash, because he hasn't potted anything approaching that degree of difficulty, and to play this shot with that much pace, to try and get the cue ball back at the table, was asking rather a lot.
And in a funny way, Robertson getting that double kiss on the pink has done him a favour, because I'm sure Zhou wouldn't have taken that on had the white been on the baulk cushion.
1.
As it is, Robertson in. And the danger here, I think, is having won that scrappy frame, he settles down. If he makes a big break here, then even at 2-0, Zhou Yuelong's got a few problems. He hasn't settled yet.
Eight. Nine.
If Neil can play for the top red of the two near the black spot, it will mean that the one just below it will then pot. But he may not just come far enough there to be able to roll it in to retain black ball position.
16. 17.
This is precisely the sort of scoring position
22.
you expect to see Neil Robertson score rather heavily from.
He was very
23.
proud yesterday to have made his 750th career century. Yes, I think some players, when their careers are over, they look back and they go through what they've done. But Robertson, as
30.
we've said, sort of keeps a tally as he's going. Little targets he wants to meet and
31.
achieve, and goals along the way. His next one is to get to 20 ranking titles. He's on 18 at the moment, so that might not take too long. Mark Williams is on 22. Of course, Trump's moved on to 19, so he's just gone ahead of him. Bar, as ever,
38.
tells us what he needs to get to at the moment to win the frame and what the high break could be.
Yes, he will need to go into that little group of 6 reds at some point. But they may not necessarily open that well for him from the black.
On the floor. Yeah.
Referee's not allowed to pass the players the rests or extensions, so Neil's got to work all this out himself. That's because of the COVID guidelines at the current time. Now get everything back again. He played it well.
39.
I wonder, Dom, when hopefully things get back to normal, I wonder if players will clock that the rests will go back to where they used to be.
That's a good point, Dave. Probably not. It'll take a while. Most players now are well accustomed to the fact that the rests are not on the rest hooks below the cushion rails.
What he's got, of course, is big match experience.
46.
So it's got to be a plus, particularly in the early stages. And that's how it's proved the last 2 times they've played.
$47.
Now, will Neil play for the remaining loose red or go into the little group of 6 there, which he can do 2 ways. He can play a power stun into the apex red or play a topspin shot with right-hand side and bring the cue ball into that little group of reds from the side and top cushions. As you can see, he's on this red to the left centre, but if he wants to get good position onto his next colour, probably the blue, he'd have to play it with a little bit of pace, which could make the pot missable.
$53.
So Yuelong took on that long red, left a chance. Robertson 59 the lead with the blue, so not that much more to do here to lead 2-0.
$58.
Needs 2 more reds.
$59.
Well, that's perfect for Neil Robertson. He can play delicate cannon into the red that's sort of in the middle of that little group of 4. Didn't quite cannon them the way intended. Now, does he have
66.
an alternative red on here into the left centre? If he does, it's an easy pot.
And it's frame over if it goes in. So the next priority is a century. This was the red that Zhou took on.
Yes, if he felt in that much trouble there, Zhou Yuelong, I'm surprised he didn't just try and play a control pot, leave the cue ball near the jaws of this left-hand top pocket.
In terms of centuries and the race between Trump and Robertson, Trump 7.53, Robertson 7.50, both on 35 for the campaign.
$74.
So a very different frame from the first one, but it's gone the same way.
Green ball. $77. $78.
This is the thing, the focus doesn't drop once the frame's won because he wants to make the century. So he's as focused here as he was when Zhou could still win the frame.
85. $86.
I remember growing up as a child myself and watching Stephen Hendry dominate the sport. And Steve Davis just before him. The commentators used to say that they took as much care clearing up the colours as they did in open play during the beginning of a frame, and that's true certainly of Neil Robertson.
92. $93.
About 126 centuries in this tournament. 140 last year was the record.
$98.
Century number 36 this season for Neil Robertson. And he's in early control of the semi-final. He won a tactical opening frame and he's won the second with a big break.
103. 107.
It's his 8th century of the tournament.
112.
He doesn't lack confidence at any point, but now he started to play well in the match. He could be a handful. A couple of big frames coming up, I think, before the interval for Zhou Yuelong.
Neil Robertson, 125 from the frame.
A great clearance of 125. Impeccable from Robertson to lead. Zhou, though, has shown us in this tournament he's capable of great bursts of scoring himself. He was 5-3 down to Chang Bing-yu in the third round. But Chang didn't pot another ball. He made 3 big breaks there, Zhou, to get the match won. Of course, against Jimmy White, he'd had a couple of centuries, a couple of 90s. So if he gets in, he's capable, of course, but he's getting in. And then staying in and settling down. He must be a little on edge at the moment, particularly after the great break that Robertson just made.
I just wonder if a little bit of Zhou Yuelong's problem here in playing Neil Robertson isn't so much the fact he's playing Neil Robertson, it could be the occasion. I mean, it's the semi-finals of one of the game's most prestigious events, the UK Championships. And it's a big deal for someone so young, just 22 years of age, to be in the semi-final with an opportunity to contest the final. I just wonder whether it's the occasion that's causing Zhou Yuelong the problem here and not the player.
May have seen a bit of that last year. Yan Bingtao was in the semis. Similar kind of situation, a young Chinese player. He drew Ding, so would have looked up to him. But also, as you say, just the fact of the actual occasion itself. And he lost 6-1.
That will concern him as well, because he's actually made contact with the wrong side of the red there. So his cue action is certainly causing him issues here. Needed to hit that 3/4 ball on the left as we looked. Of course, if anything, slightly to the right. There you see it, pot success. Barely over a third. Well, he's got an opportunity here. This red's a little more missable than it may appear, though, having said that. But if you can knock this in and get on a colour, you'll have a good chance. Given the position of the reds, you can see they're spread far and wide already.
One.
I'm sure the red that's next to the black will pot into the right corner, and if Zhou Yuelong can get on that as soon as he can, he'll free the black up. And if the black pots into the right corner, it doesn't appear to, it would be a significant bonus. He's having a look now to see if it goes. Must be very tight. No, I don't think that quite goes.
Six. $11. 12.
Well, he seems a different player now, Zhou Yuelong. He's bouncing around the table, looks full of confidence. He seems to have thrown off those shackles that were prohibiting a good performance earlier on.
$17. $18. $23.
I think he's tried so hard to get onto this red. Does he feel it goes? It's very tight, but I think it will just pot.
Referee watching closely in the background.
$24.
Oh, being treated to some wonderful camera angles here.
31.
Camera angles I've not seen before.
$32.
Well, in a funny way, there's slightly more room, isn't there, for the guys on the cameras with no crowd, and it's just essentially them and the players in the arena.
Yes, of course, and they wouldn't be blocking the view of an audience in attendance that we don't have.
$39.
Once again, our little sidebar graphic suggesting that a points tally of 68 should leave Neil Robertson requiring snookers.
Yeah, he never liked that. You could see him shaking his head before
40.
playing it. It was awkward, and he's lost his way now.
Yes, you can see the disappointment etched on his face. He's trying to bounce this cue ball a little wider to avoid that cannon on the red. Now, with a 40 points lead, I think it's very important he puts maybe the yellow safe here. Right, he's taking on the blue. Does he need to take this blue on?
$45.
Well, he didn't fully commit to it positionally. He's left himself a red that's of similar difficulty here. But he doesn't want to give away all this hard work by missing this. If this red bounces, he may just do that.
Yuelong, 45.
I mean, he's obviously confident, but of course, if you miss like that, balls can run anywhere. This is clippable.
One.
So in this frame, Zhou has been in. Will he get back in?
Well, I can assure you, if I were allowed to place a bet on this frame, I think my money would be on that man now.
Well, I think I'm allowed to bet, Dom. I'll put the money on for you.
I think I might still be in breach of betting regulations, Dave. I'll turn that offer down, thank you.
Six.
Yes, and just to clarify, professional snooker players are not allowed to bet on snooker matches played at professional level or otherwise. Probably because we've got far too much inside knowledge.
Well, anyone who's watched Neil Robertson play this week or in the last few years, I think would agree with you that he's got every chance to win it here, and if he does, then although Zhou was looking confident, and it's got a dent that confidence he had. He's obviously decided to attack today, but the red he took on, as I say, could have finished anywhere. As Robertson plays this little cannon.
14.
The thing was, the way he played the blue, there was a degree of insurance, wasn't there? He wasn't leaving an easy red, but that meant, of course, when the blue went in, the red he had was tough.
Yes, you could argue the fact that, by taking the blue on, which was a very positive shot choice, go the whole hog and play for good position on the next ball as well, because basically he left himself with two difficult shots in succession there. Made the first, but not the second.
$15.
I'm just checking that if he pots the pink into the left centre, will it tie the red up next to it? It may well still pot into the right corner. I think the pink would actually respot.
$21. $22.
I wonder what's going through the mind of that young man. He'll be hoping for another opportunity in this frame, but Neil Robertson will do his level best not to give him one. That's not ideal.
27.
But of course, Neil left-handed. This red's a lot easier for him.
28.
And now if he could play for that red next to the pink into the right corner, he could leave himself a perfect angle on the pink just to drop him behind the two reds to the left.
$35. $36. $42. $43.
Well, this is the key shot now for Neil Robertson. Can he get good position on this remaining red? To power the black in. Well, can't hold
50.
for the blue, but can easily go up for the brown or even the yellow if he wished. Might be easier for Neil to get that yellow back onto its spot, because if he had to play from yellow to green, it could go wrong.
$51.
That's the plan, to have the colours on their spots. Had a bit of everything so far. A tactical first frame, a century in the second. Are we going to have a big steal
53.
in the third?
$55. $58.
Speed of these cushions, just catching Neil out a couple of times. He wasn't perfectly positioned on the yellow. He's certainly not ideal on the brown.
Still needs brown and blue.
$62.
And it's not there. Wow. Shot you certainly
Robertson,
fancy him
62.
for, even though he was slightly hampered. That was frame ball. A lifeline is thrown.
Neil Robertson had the good sense, though, to play the cue ball to the side cushion, which means Zhou Yuelong can do nothing except roll the blue in and leave the pink from mid-range. But this blue is by no means easy. Well, it's moderately safe. I don't know if Neil will be tempted by the double to the left centre. He could play the cue ball back towards the middle of the bulk cushion if he did play that.
Oh, a fascinating little part of this match, because Zhou, I'm sure, would have thought it's 3-0 guaranteed. Still got a chance in this frame.
That's been played well. If you can get that cue ball near the side cushion and the blue fairly near one of the pockets, it makes a safety shot for your opponent quite tricky. And now a chance for Zhou Yuelong to try and stun that cue ball to the baulk cushion, send the blue in behind the black if he can. But he'll just need to be careful that that blue doesn't catch the bump of the right-hand centre pocket. That's if he plays the shot, I'm suggesting.
Huge moments, 3-0 or 2-1. Zhou Yuelong looking for a foothold in this semi-final.
Neil took a risk there, trying to get the snooker. I think that blue has just gone past the middle pocket enough to not be cuttable.
Yeah, the word there is just. Neil Robertson came round to have a look. If the cue ball was further over to the left of the table, he might be able to knock it in.
He's just got to make sure the blue remains safe here. Zhou Yuelong. He's got to judge the skid off the cushion rail here. He's judged it pretty well. This needs to run a little.
You can almost see him willing it on to get to the cushion. He was stood there, wasn't he? Imploring the blue almost.
Focus more on a good cue ball there, Zhou Yuelong. Now, does Neil feel he can cut this blue into the right-hand corner pocket as a shot to nothing? Just the safety, and I'll tell you what, it's looking very good.
First things first, he's got to hit the blue. Now, where's it going to finish? Is it going in? It's very close. Wow.
5.
What a moment that could be. We saw that big fluke last night for Kyren Wilson when he was 3-0 down. Zhou Yuelong snookered in all sorts of trouble. Can he now take advantage with pink and black? Robertson played a terrific shot there. But it just shows you luck can play its part. Oh, and didn't he play the pink
11.
well? Well, Neil Robertson, remember, had the blue initially for the frame on 62, missed it to the green pocket. But the mother of all flukes could just have turned this match around. It's won Zhou Yuelong the frame. It's 2-1. Played a terrific snooker. Zhou Yuelong hit the blue, fluked it, potted a good pink, and was nicely on the black. But let's just see what difference it makes. The difference it has made, of course, he's got him on the scoreboard immediately, but in terms of long term in the match.
I think as well there'd have been a lot of players that would have just played the cue ball off the side cushion and rolled up to the blue rather than playing it at the pace that Zhou Yuelong did. But that's thrown an entirely different light now on the potential outcome of this match. Here we see it again. Half ball. I mean, if this blue doesn't go in, the chances are it's going to stay right over the pocket. But he still had to pot a good pink. Well, this is the blue that went astray for Neil. He wouldn't have been sure if that could have just skidded in off that bottom jaw.
Oh, and a miss.
Well, again, Zhou
Neil
Yuelong
Robertson 4.
fails to reach his intended red. It was just the pressure, wasn't it, of the frame ball for Neil Robertson. It allowed him to miss that. On the practice table, he'd probably get at least 9, if not 10 out of 10 of those.
1.
It's right there what Colin was saying at the start. You know, you don't know, do you, in sport? We all have our theories and our analysis and we use our experience, but on the day, things just happen. And that's why we love watching it. And now the onus is on Robertson to use the great strength of character that he has to just put it to one side and focus on this frame. It won't be the first time something like that's happened to him. The disappointment for him was not so much the fluke, it was the missed blue from himself, because that was in his own hands. He can't control his opponent's luck, but he can control what he does.
Nine.
Well, he has an ideal angle here on the black Neil Robertson to take the cue ball into that pack of reds. They should split quite nicely for him, because playing for one of the loose reds from here isn't particularly easy to do. Decided to, but couldn't get close to his next red, which could well be the one that's just below the pink,
16.
which will pass into this left corner.
Seventeen. $24. $25. $32.
4 reds, 4 blacks then for Neil Robertson. Going along nicely in this 4th frame. He'll certainly want to re-establish the authority that he had up until losing that 3rd frame.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Top level snooker. A test of skill, but also a test of character. When something like that happens to you, how do you respond to it?
$39. 40.
So far, so good.
Well, it looks as though Neil, if
47.
anything, has turned what happened in that last frame, the fluke from that young man there, into a positive, because he's playing now, Neil, with far less circumspection. Seems to have sped up his play.
48.
And looking like the Neil Robertson we normally see. Just deliberating slightly here as to when and how to get into that little group of 6.
$53. $54.
Choices here for Neil Robertson. He can play either pink or black to cannon into those 6 reds and develop them. Because he does need one of those awkwardly placed reds.
Well, fluke, what fluke, isn't it? What a response this is. Lovely shot to get them
61.
open. Barring something catastrophic, surely going to be 3-1. Well, big moments aren't always big moments in retrospect at the time. The fluke looked huge. It was in the frame because it effectively won in the frame. But this is another frame. And it could be over very quickly.
62.
Robertson needs another red.
Yes, that fluke from Zhou Yuelong seems to have angered Neil Robertson. Seems to have certainly focused his mind. This is the pack split, which couldn't have been played better, could it?
$69.
Well, very impressive.
70.
Just come out and it's like it never happened. As I say, the annoyance for him, I'm sure, was his own missed blue, but he's put that right here. Could be a 2nd century. That'll send him off to his glass of vegan, whatever drink it is that he has at the interval. Very happy.
76. 77. $84. 8-5.
In some ways, maybe, because he was playing quite meticulously, his average shot time was around 30 seconds. Maybe, as you say, he's just sort of thrown the shackles off a little bit. Thought, OK, let's just get stuck in now. Shot time to come down below 27 seconds.
91. $92.
It's a great break anyway, but under the circumstances, just clearing the mind and forgetting about the way he lost frame 3. Extra impressive. This red then for his second century of the afternoon.
99.
That flute blue was about 10 minutes ago. It already feels like a distant memory.
Yes, I think the defeat in the last frame was rather annoyed, angered, call it what you will, but it certainly focused the mind of Neil Robertson. It's all-out aggression here.
Yeah, and he's pretty formidable in that mode. Don't make him angry is maybe the motto. 37 centuries now this season. 9 in the UK Championship so far.
$115.
And like I say, you know, had he been 3-0 up and made this break, it still would have been impressive. But to come out after the body blow of the last frame as if nothing had happened, even more so.
Yeah, possible total clearance of 140 on here. Oh, the brown's missed.
Even so, 118 sends him off to the interval. Feeling pretty good about things. Neil Robertson has made 2 centuries. Zhou stole that dramatic third frame, but it is the Australian leading at the interval by 3 frames to 1.
In the first 4 frames, and we have the Whirlwinds and the Rocket primed for an unrivaled semi-final Saturday mid-session interval when we return. This fluke in the 3rd frame stopped the rot for Zhou Yuelong, but then Neil Robertson kicked in again, and Robbo whacked in another century. 2 in the first 4 frames. He's 3-1 up at the moment. It's looking ominous for the underdog. Ronnie and Jimmy are with me. Ronnie, first 2 frames, like you said, you know, he's got to handle the occasion, Zhou Yuelong, and he was getting punished.
Yeah, it's hard though. You know, he's had some serious beatings off of Neil, so he's probably obviously carrying that into the match, and he's probably a little bit too tentative. You know, probably giving Neil too much respect and think, you know, and a couple of times you see him in his chair, you can really see that he's like thinking it's like game over every time he makes a mistake. So he looks like he's playing with a bit of pressure on him, and you know, you've got to try and go out there and play relaxed. You've got to try and go out there and play how Neil's playing. You know, Neil looks like he's just down the club, just putting balls for fun, you know.
Yeah, you were saying, Jimmy, it looked like every frame was the last frame for Zhou Yuelong. In the 3rd frame, he needed Robbo to miss a frame ball, then he needed a bit of luck.
Yeah, he did. You know, Ron's absolutely right. His mindset, he's like every time he comes to the table, he's under pressure. This is a blue that Robbo plays to put it in the green, but if you look at the shot, he's playing to put the white safe in case he missed it, which he did.
Beautiful.
So Zhou's got no shot there, but if he was just potting the blue, he wouldn't have missed it. And then, what about this one, Ron? A bit of a trick shot.
Yeah, unbelievable. You know, you could just see it was going in as a fluke, and you know, part and parcel of the game. This was a good pink though. You know, he still had a bit to do, and he's crashed us in the middle of the pocket, got a good
11.
white onto the black. So yeah, listen, he needs a bit of luck, doesn't he, today? You know, so we're not going to begrudge him that. You know, and just nice for him to get a frame on the board. So even though he's 3-1 down, let's just hope that frame can settle him a little bit, you know?
Yeah, well, we already got a shot in the next frame, did he? The Robbo comes back in, another century, superlatives. We kind of run out of them. 9 centuries this tournament, Jimmy.
Yeah, phenomenal. You know, this is what these great champions do. You know, they put that behind them. You know, some players who are not winning so much would have thought, oh, maybe it's a turning point. Here, Robbo plays a fantastic split on the red, you couldn't have put them better with your hand. Fantastic shot. 3-1, completely forgotten all about the fluke straight away.
Right, but that's the temperament of the best, isn't it? There's you get over the bad beat straight away.
I think Neil feels comfortable because he doesn't look like he's having to push the boat out, whereas Zhou's had to go for a couple of long ones. Not that he wanted to go for them, just that he was forced into it. So he feels like he's having to take shots on he doesn't really want to take on. And Neil, he's just playing any shot he wants to play. He's not feeling forced into playing a shot that he doesn't want to play. So it's like one geezer's in second gear and the other geezer feels like he's got to be in top gear all the time. And with that, it feels like you're under pressure because you're not competing. Neil's bossing the game in all areas, really. Yeah,
well, that is the story of the first 4 frames. But our mid-sessions here in Eurosport are all action. So when we come back, we'll head to... Robertson's been using his... He loves an extension. He's got all the mod cons. He's got all the tricks. And he's used them in the quarterfinal. He's used them in the semi already. And, Jimmy, it's something that puts the amateur player all at sea. I don't have ever used one. I'd fear it. So talk me through the art of it.
They're a must-have in your cue case, because years ago we used to have the big mushroom tip on the long cue down the side of the table and you couldn't play any shots. With these now, you just stick the extension on the end of your cue and then you can get down and you can more or less, you can play any sort of shot with this long rest, which before that would probably be impossible with the old cue. Ronnie only uses the extension that's there. He doesn't use because he can play a lot of shots left-handed. But the advantage with players like Neil Robertson and Mark Selby, they're over 6'2", 6'3",
right?
So they can reach most shots. But you must have in your snooker case.
Feel any different? Any different tips for it? Play it just like an absolute normal rest shot? Does it feel the same, or is it a whole new art?
I think they're harder with the long one because obviously you're so far away from the tip of your cue, and if you see the one shot in a minute that Selby plays, you can't really judge the power on it really because it's just such. You never used a cue that's that long, and the weight changes. So it's a little bit more. You're less accurate if you like with your pace. Yeah. But like you say, it's one of them. It just gets you out of jail. I mean, if you used to use some of the bigger stuff, you would have absolutely no chance of judging it. Well, at least this, you've got much more control, but it's still not an easy implement to use. So,
and it was Alex Higgins, wasn't it? It was like, I don't want to use the mushroom tip. Yeah. I forgot about it. It used to be down the side of the table.
Absolutely. Alex turned up one of the tournaments in the early 80s and he had all these extensions, and was like, wow. And then, everybody copied him.
Trailblazer. Well, Robbo is halfway to his first triple live 360 coverage right here in Eurosport. We'll be here for every ball that's potted, and that tells you all you need to know, James White.
Yeah, absolutely. His eyes break Yuelong. He's only 47. He's got to sort of up his game a bit and try and win a frame in one visit because he's not settled for me. He's very nervous.
Yeah, we're going to leave you time for a birthday dinner, aren't we? If this keeps going like this, what way to spend your birthday? I know you don't like it being mentioned. We've got to mention it. Spend your birthday in the studio, eh?
Yeah, no, it's great. Some quality snooker to watch. I love watching some good stuff. And that's what we've got today. So
now we know what your perfect present is because you've got it. You're addicted to this scooter. But we've got to tell people this. Ronnie's buzzing about the venue in one of these scooters. Chasey referees jumping out of the way, players running for their lives. You see him buzzing all over Mill. If you see something that looks like Ronnie O'Sullivan on a little scooter, it's you.
Yeah, because it's like to get to the restaurant and get here, there and everywhere, it's so much quicker for me so I can make the most of my time here.
And I heard you give Jimmy a backie.
Yeah. Jimmy got on the back the other day. He enjoyed it. It was good, wasn't it?
Great fun. It's not 25 miles an hour.
It's not what he said to me. He said he'd never do it again in his life. Right, let's get back to the commentary box. There's a man holding on for dear life. Zhou Yuelong's been hit by Robbo. 2 centuries in the first 4 frames. The score's 3-1. It's first to 6 as we get back to Dominic Dale and Dave Hendon.
So Neil Robertson halfway towards a place in the UK Championship final. He's had 2 centuries. Zhou Yuelong's highest break, just 45. So for all the excitement about the fluke in frame 3, he hasn't really started scoring yet. Match time, 1 hour and 22 minutes. It's been fascinating stuff, but Robertson's 118 there before the interval. Important break for him, I guess, just to put aside what happened in frame 3.
Yes, a big frame miss in the context of the match for Zhou Yuelong, particularly if he can somehow win this frame to reduce his arrears to a single frame. He's right back in the match at 3-2. But should Neil Robertson win it to go 4-1 ahead as you look at the respective highest breaks of the two players, a big difference between them.
Well, they're the two stats that have got to go up. Highest break 45 has got to go up, and pot success just 74%. If they don't, he won't win. Not like you, Dom, to be stuck for a word. Neil Robertson has now made 9 century breaks in this tournament. The record for the UK Championship is 12. Stephen Hendry and Ronnie O'Sullivan. Inevitably, it will be those two. But obviously, if he gets into the final tomorrow, that's best of 19.
Very good speed of the cue ball there from Zhou Yuelong. There is a safety on for Neil off the edge of the pack, but he's just got to make sure he doesn't catch it too thickly and glance the red just to the right of the pack. Shouldn't do. By playing that red, there was always a chance that not the black safe. He was probably trying to develop it. My goodness me, what on earth is he drinking?
The game's changed since the likes of Bill Werbenet would come out with a pint of lager, that is.
Looks like something that Derek Trotter would drink.
Well, a chance here early in this 5th frame. Yeah, beautifully cued. Straight as an arrow.
Potted a very similar red to this in the 1st frame. It's a great feeling when they hit the back of the pocket, the way that one did. It's just confirmation, really, that your cueing is as good as it can be.
3.
Needs to get high side of the blue, which isn't easy because these cushion rails are
4.
all newly clothed and therefore a little slower than they can be on occasion. Difficult break to make this with both pink and black tied up.
Eight. 9.
Not entirely sure what Neil's intended next red will be. I just wonder if the red that's to the left of the pink does pot into this left corner. My goodness, Neil's really got hold of the cue ball there. Almost left this
14.
red unplayable. He can just about pot it and avoid cannoning into the pack of reds and stunning up for blue or bulk colour.
$15.
He's been a little fortuitous there, Neil Robertson. He's just about got an angle on the blue to cannon into the 2 reds and the pink and give himself the opportunity to be on one of them.
$17. $18.
Being left-handed, he was quite comfortable playing that red along the cushion, but it was a very missable one. It was a great pot. But this time, position has gone astray. Just didn't catch the full body of the pack of reds here, just skimmed off them a little.
Well, he worked really hard there, didn't he, for 23 points. It's all about trying to force another
Robertson,
opening.
23.
Got Reds into play now. Pressure really on Zhou here, trailing in the match, trying to get closer, make a match of it.
Well, take a look at this. You can see the difficulty of the pot. It was a very, very good attempt, but I'm just curious as to why the cue ball's finished in the middle of the table. Did he really play for the blue there?
It's got to be said, the long balls haven't really been going in from the cue of Yuelong.
1.
Robertson, of course, had opened the Reds last time he was at the table, so chance to go further in front in this frame and in this match.
probably played for the red
6.
into the right centre, which is still on, but the cue ball will be cannoning into the red and the pink below it. He's got the option of the red near the black spot if he wishes.
Seven.
Well, having missed that blue in frame 3, he can't stop potting it.
12. $13.
I think he'll be happy enough with his position there on the blue. It shouldn't be difficult to take the cue ball in and out of bulk for position on the red, just above the black spot. Could even go into that little quartet of reds. But this is probably the key shot coming up for Neil Robertson. If this goes well, I can see him winning the frame from here. Is he even considering the yellow here? Being left-handed, he'll be able to reach it. That's a great shot from Neil. Just the cannon to those 4 reds beautifully, and he's on this red by the pink.
$19.
Well, now you fear a little for his opponent, not just in terms of this frame, but the whole afternoon. Robertson's had a very good couple of years. He's won several titles already this season. He's been in 2 finals, both played, of course, here at the Marshall Arena in Milton Keynes.
$25.
The one time he's been in trouble in the tournament was when he was 4-2 down to Anthony McGill in the last 16, and he put together 4 excellent frames to win 6-4.
26.
Other than that, he's just been holding everyone off.
He's just the wrong side of straight on the pink. He was able to play for the leftmost red of that little group of 4 into the left corner. As you see, he's 55 ahead.
32.
So just a red and colour required. I think he always realised that this next positional shot would be slightly more challenging.
$33.
But if he can pot a colour here, it should allow him to take a 4-1 lead. Will he risk the black? Doesn't have to. If you were to chip the black to the side cushion, Zhou Yuelong would have to somehow develop it, otherwise he'd definitely need a snooker.
Robertson, 33.
Yeah, he wasn't happy with that. He's left an immediate chance. OK, he has put the black towards the cushion, but he's left a pot on.
It wouldn't bother me though, really. 56 behind as he came to table. Zhou Yuelong, 59 points remaining. He will have to somehow get that black in open play and pot it fairly soon, otherwise he will need a snooker. 3 more reds and 3 pinks won't be enough for him.
Well, you could see him sort of doing the maths there in his head, just checking he got it right.
Seven. Eight.
Oh, it was a good effort. Got close to it. Problem is, as you see,
14.
is that now he does need blacks. Oh dear, that is well, the worst thing that could happen. He's given away 4 points. He needs a snooker. He's conceded. Wow, that came to an end very suddenly, didn't it? That sort of sums up the afternoon a little bit for Zhou Yuelong. Lu Robertson firmly in control at 4-1. He needs 2 more. He's in his 3rd UK Championship final. It's been a while, I guess 5 years since he won it, but he's won various other big tournaments along the way. Remember his first title, 2006 Grand Prix. Every calendar year since, he's won something of note. A record he's very proud of.
And even that's gone wrong for Zhou Yuelong. The red cannoning into the pack, which has developed them. Furthermore, he's left that red on into the right centre, and if this goes in, an immediate chance of Lu Robertson. Ooh, but it just eludes him.
Well, even he can't pot everything. He's also good at forgetting about misses, because he said yesterday that he was talking to Mark Selby in the interval, and he said that he had 100% pot success rate, but that can't be right, because he missed a black in frame 3 off the spot on 63, but he just put it out of his mind, which is a good way to be.
was that shot the first sign that we've seen from Yuelong that he's going to take a few shots on now and try and do something to get back into this match? Because nothing that he's doing at the moment is working. I just wonder if this red that's just underneath the pink pots into this left corner. If it does, Neil would take it on. It's a shot to nothing. He could avoid the pack of reds with the cue ball. Oh, but there's another one that goes. Oh, what a pot. This pot that he knocks in here, Neil, was a lot more riskier potentially, but now that he's knocked it in, it's the perfect red that he could have potted, because he's now on the black with a chance to cannon into the red that's just above it. And in about 2 shots from now, this black spot will be completely clear and in open play. Oh, he played for red in the same pocket as the black, but he's just gone behind the other one.
8.
Just wanted to cannon that red away as well.
So red to far corner. And that's the thing, he's got the freedom
9.
in the match, hasn't he, to take those on and expect to get them 4-1 up.
He's just got one of these cue actions, Dave. It repeats so well. It's so straight. It doesn't look like he's ever going to miss anything.
No, I mean, I think from what we've seen, he's played the best snooker of the tournament. Of course, Lu Ning had those 4 centuries in a row. Unfortunately, we didn't see that because it was on the back table. But in terms of the TV matches, Robertson, match after match, has produced the goods.
12.
Even against Li Hang, which was a bit dragged out, the table was a bit heavy, he showed, you know, another side to his game.
13.
Just a bit straight on the blue. Neil would love to be able to get onto the red above the black in such a way that he could cannon that other red away from the black. Although I think the black does pot in the right corner, doesn't it? Screw, and lots of left-hand side on the cue ball. And he will be able to play that cannon here that I suggested.
19. $26. 27.
You could just see that the 2 reds are a potential plant to this right corner, but Neil could play a cannon if he wished into the left of the 2 reds.
34. 35. 42. 43.
Well, whatever the zone is, he's in it. Robertson playing quite beautifully. It's just the care he takes on every shot. You sometimes see players, we've seen it all week, when it looks
50.
easy, they just slightly take it for granted, but he just seems to focus on every ball of every frame.
51.
Another half century. Could be another century. He's had 2 already.
I think for me, alongside Ronnie O'Sullivan and Ding Junhui, Neil Robertson is pretty much the most perfect snooker player with those other 2 names
59.
that I mentioned. Technically, and the way they play the game, just I really struggle to find fault with anything they do.
Two more pots away, as you see, from a
66.
5-1 lead.
$67.
It's going to take something very dramatic for him to lose now. Look at the stats. They've actually gone down for Zhou Yuelong. Robertson at 95% on the pot success. As frame ball goes in, it's going to be 1 away. And as I say, this could now be a 3rd century.
74. 75.
He was in those 2 finals that I mentioned, the English Open, Champion of Champions. A couple of early defeats after that, German Masters, Northern Ireland Open. Maybe not a bad thing, actually. Looking at this, it just gave him a bit of time to regroup. Came into this tournament looking pretty fresh, and he's just playing so well.
82. 83.
Well, if he can make a century, he will, for now, caught up Judd Trump on the career totals. 7-5-3.
$90.
One thing we know, he won't be happy with 90.
$91.
I think the red that's just below the pink pots into this left corner, if you can just run through 18 inches or so.
$96.
Well, it obviously doesn't pop because Neil would have played for it there, so he's having to take the more difficult of the 2 remaining reds.
Well, just no problem, it seems. So this black then, for his 10th century of this year's UK Championship, and he's surely going to have the chance to make more tomorrow in the best of 19 final. didn't get the cannon, but has made the century.
104.
Third of the match,
Robertson,
1 frame to win the
and a
match.
frame.
Neil Robertson rampant here this afternoon. He's surely going to get the job done soon. He leads 5-1. Neil Robertson has made 3 centuries this afternoon. He leads 5-1. He needs 1 more frame. He's in the final.
Took a bit of a risk there, Neil Robertson. He felt if the red dropped, he'd be on the black. That's why he took it on. But I think he has left a red on here for Zhou Yuelong. If he plays a delicate cannon to the red directly above the black, sort of in the middle of that trio, he could be on the black into the opposite corner. Applause there, but it's no good really. He just allowed the cue ball to drift on there. Needed a little bit more stun on the cue ball rather than topspin. Well, if the black's as straight as it looks, it's almost pointless taking it on. Well, he's got the tiniest angle to work with, but he'd have to power this in to be able to get onto red.
Eight.
Well, we have so many loyal viewers here on Eurosport who can't get enough of snooker. They'd love to see a comeback. They'd love to see him make a fight of it. Start to play well. Start to play the snooker that's got him to the semi-finals. But it's going to have to start here.
$16. $17.
I wonder which red Zhou Yuelong will play for next. If he plays for one of the 2 reds above the black, he'd have to play this with a trace of left-hand side on the cue ball, which would make the pot just a little bit missable.
$24. $25.
Well, graphics operator getting excited. First things first, just build yourself into the frame. He has made a maximum actually in the Indian Open.
Yes, I remember it. I think it was about a year or so ago, wasn't it?
$32. $33.
Now, good angle for Yuelong to take the cue ball into that little group of reds. As you can see, they're rather nicely detached from one another, so they should split nicely. Oh, surely he's got to play the blue here. I know there is a red that is available to the left of the pink, but it's the only remaining loose red.
$38.
His ice break so far 45 in frame 3. His ice break against Robertson in their European Masters final was only 47. I mean, that was in January, you know, nearly a year ago, but in some ways this match has felt like a continuation.
Yes, you've only really
39.
seen your glimpse of what this young man is capable of.
$46. $47.
Just needs to be a little careful with this positional shot. Can play a cannon into the middle red of the 3 below the pink. Or he can stun up past them for red into this left corner. Just having a look at the gap he'd need to leave himself with. Wow, he's short of pace, isn't he? Can he get through to this red now?
54.
I don't know if he's on this red.
No, and he's not close to being safe in the frame yet.
if Yuelong takes this red on and misses it, it could easily be the last shot he plays in this year's UK Championships. Everything would be on for his opponent. Big shot coming up.
Yeah, well done. Well done. It's been a pretty dispiriting afternoon, and that could have really
55.
completed the misery had he missed that, but he didn't miss it. Of course, the events in China at the moment not happening. They have just had a domestic snooker tournament last week, so things are starting to hopefully slowly come back to normal. I was talking to Jason Ferguson, the chairman of the World Professional Billiards and Snooker Association, who knows all about
62.
what's happening out there, and he said the problem at the moment with China is players would have to quarantine for 2 weeks before the event, play the event, and then quarantine for another 2 weeks. So in fact, one tournament would take 5 weeks to play. So obviously that's not sustainable at the current time. Hopefully next season.
63.
In the meantime, Zhou Yuelong, he's 2 balls away from winning his second frame. And this won't be off the back of a fluke. This will be a big break. I did say if he's going to somehow turn it round, he would have to play his best snooker and hope that Robertson slipped up. Well,
69.
he is starting to play well here. And that's more like it. Still a huge break on here. Still 67 points on. So possible 1-4-4 with blacks. We've already had, of course, 2 maximums, but also
78.
another 6 breaks of 140 or plus. The same for Fai had a 1-4-6. A couple of 1-4-1s, a couple of 140s as well.
H5.
If only he'd have started like this.
86. $93.
Yes, much easier to do when you're 5-1 behind.
94.
This is how you need to perform earlier on in a match, just to put your opponent under pressure, give yourself a chance. It's a little bit after the Lord Mayor's show, unfortunately, for Zhou Yuelong.
99.
Well, yeah, he might have to keep doing it and keep doing it, but there's been nothing wrong with this frame from him. This is how he got to the semi-finals, and he makes
100.
a century of his own. That'll make him feel a lot better. His 4th of the tournament. He's only 1 off his tally for the whole of last season.
106.
So it shows you've been playing well in early season.
107. 114. 116.
Suddenly it's just all easy. It's been a struggle for most of the afternoon, but something's clicked. Possibly at the moment where he feels he probably can't win the match, suddenly
119.
maybe relaxed a bit, just playing really nicely now.
123.
Well, this has been a quality
128.
contribution. His highest ever break in the UK Championship
134.
is 135. So with this black, he can beat that. Total clearance of 141 from Zhou Yuelong. A moment of real quality from him. Robertson now leads 5-2.
Center break.
So Zhou Yuelong, an excellent 1-4-1, but it is still Robertson one away at 5-2.
Quite a handy break-off shot, that, from Neil. Can't see a path back to bulk unless there is a gap between yellow and blue to skim off the edge of those 4 reds below the pink there. If he takes the red on that's next to the blue into this right corner, it's treacherous because of the 2 reds by the black spot there. They're just waiting for Neil Robertson. Dreaded double kiss again. Choice of reds for Neil. Neither of them are ideal. The pots are missable because of the cue ball being very close to side cushion. As we have another look at this double kiss. That double kiss has kept that cue ball near the side cushion. But positionally, how can Neil get onto the black? He's just going to have a look, see if there are 2 plants at the bottom of that cluster that could be made into a plant. Well, actually, the 2 reds in the middle of the group, as we look, are set for a plant. Problem is the red next to it. Will it push them offline? I personally think that that plant's not on because of the red next to them. Now, can Neil pop this other red, though, above the black? Cannon into the black and knock it on. Well, if Neil thinks that plant's on, I'm going to disagree and stick my neck out and say there's no way those 2 reds can form a plant because of that red that's just next to them. It's going to push them offline, surely.
One. Robertson 1.
Just to say on the Masters, of course, we've been talking about the race. They're actually making the draw tomorrow. So we'll know the first round draw. And at 10 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, the remaining tickets go on sale. We're hopeful that there will be a reduced audience at Alexandra Palace. That's the plan. We know things can change, but if you want to go along, then 10 o'clock tomorrow morning is when they go on sale. I mean, all tournaments, obviously, you associate with crowds, but certainly the Masters in London has always had vociferous support. Alex Higgins, he beat Steve Davis there one year, and there was nearly a riot. Well, there's plenty there for whoever gets in. And Neil Robertson has just seen his opponent suddenly step up and make a big break.
That safety shot certainly spread these reds open, so one mistake from either man could be a very costly one. But Yuelong, that's faced with the first of the difficulties. It's he that's in bulk and has the tricky safety to play. Is he going to take this red on? No, he was able to play the safety, but he's tied the black up in doing so. Chance here for Neil to play the red that's furthest right. Just clip it along behind the black spot. Try and get that cue ball in behind the green and brown on the bulk cushion. He played a far more extravagant shot there. And a red has come up the table, but he's got an excellent cue ball. Well, I do expect Neil to take this straightest red on to the right corner. I think he's just trying to work out where he wishes to place the cue ball. Can play it for blue, maybe even green or brown. Unless he feels he can play for the pink in the left centre. Oh, that's exactly what he's done, and how well has he played that. There was risk attached to that. He definitely left a red on there for Zhou Yuelong.
Yeah, I mean, long potting, 64%, considering how many he takes on. That's really good.
Just trying to work out how to cannon the red that's occupying the pink spot. Don't think he could have played that any better, really. I wonder if that black's potable into the right corner,
7.
if he were to place the cue ball low enough on it.
Eight.
Got the right side of the blue. Choices here for Neil Robertson. He can play for the red that's just above and to the left of the black. That would really open things up for him. But would be a slight risk of leaving the cue ball short of pace and being on nothing. He could play to leave himself on the red that's just below the black, but he'd want to be half ball on it to be able to stun into the red next to the black to knock it out of the way. Decided on my first suggestion. Now is he straight enough on this red? He may not be.
13.
Awkward. May have to screw into the black here and try and knock it towards that right corner.
Fourteen. $19. $20.
Beginning to look very ominous now for Zhou Yuelong, particularly if Neil can get onto that red that's next to the pink and open the pink up into the opposite corner. Played to perfection.
Well, we hear a lot about bubbles
25.
these days, don't we? And some of these tournaments have been operating in them. But I think Neil Robertson is in his own. And nothing that's happening anywhere else seems to bother him. Didn't bother him when he was 4-2 down to McGill. Didn't bother him when Zhou fluked that blue on the third frame. Hasn't bothered him with him making the 1-4-1. He's just focusing on what he's doing. And he's doing it really well today. In fact, all week.
Well, the red I suggested Neil play for into the left corner can't possibly go because he'd be playing it by now. So he's played for the red in the middle of that group. Yeah, that red I'm suggesting certainly doesn't go into the left
26.
corner. But he's played that beautifully and he's just developed a couple more reds
Ooh, it just drops. I don't think anyone was sure there. He looked like he'd overcut that, but it's dropped in.
33.
Well, I think if this cloth had been on the table another couple of days, that would never have dropped.
Yeah, of course, it was reclothed overnight. But, you know, people talk about the tables and people talk about pocket sizes, the cloth and so on. I've had some comments today, but the fact is, to make as many centuries as the likes of Robertson and Trump do, it's also about control of that cue ball. It's about position. Because if it was that easy, everyone would be making them all day long in every match. And they're not, clearly. Last night, you know, we struggled to see a half-century in the Lu Ning, Joe Perry match. Certainly from Lu Ning, he really struggled to score despite his earlier rate of success. And Robertson just has this iron focus, it seems, when he's at the table.
$41.
Well, that black that wobbled but dropped might have been Zhou's last chance to do something in this match.
42.
Kyren and Nu will be cheering every ball here. Zhou was his big remaining threat for the Masters. It was against Robertson in 2015 that Kyren missed the last black on a 147. That's the last year Robertson
47.
won this title. But he's edging closer to a chance tomorrow to complete a hat-trick of UK victories.
48.
Once again, the speed of this top cushion just catching Neil out
53.
a little. Once again, we'll have to stun up for the blue.
$54.
Well, 96% pot success. I mean, that's seriously good. He needs one more red to put himself in the final.
$59.
Once again, iron focus from Neil Robertson. Business-like, just wants to get the job done. But I guess on his mind might be another century now. Well, there's no might about it, it will be.
Now he's on a red to the left corner. Yuelong realises his hopes
67.
of contesting the final of this great event have now expired.
$68.
The record for most centuries in the UK Championship is 12. It's held jointly by Stephen Hendry
75.
and Ronnie O'Sullivan, the two all-time great break builders. Neil Robertson, if he makes one here, it'll be his 11th, with a final to come tomorrow. It's not enough just to win.
76.
And that pursuit of excellence is why he's got to the top, why he's won all the tournaments he has, why I'm sure he'll continue to win them for the next few years.
$82. H3.
Neil's obvious potential stumbling block to another century will be that tricky yellow.
H8. H9.
Well, century or not, he's going to be in his 31st ranking final, with a chance to win a third UK title. And he's played brilliantly. He's got to be so confident. The green does indeed stay out.
Neil Robertson.
But it's
89,
victory for Neil
very
Robertson,
nice.
89 to follow the 3 centuries he had. The one moment of cheer for Zhou Yuelong was the 1-4-1 in frame 7. It's Neil Robertson, first into the UK Championship final. He's a winner, 6-2.
Why we remember the giant killings, because they don't happen that often. Everything's went according to plan for Neil Robertson, beating Zhou Yuelong 6-2. 5 centuries in the match, 4 of them for Robbo. So the first hot favourite of the day goes through to the final. The second place tonight, live on Eurosport. Judd trumped the world #1 against Lu Ning for a place to play Robbo to win the UK Championship in the first Triple Crown of this season. Ronnie O'Sullivan and Jimmy White are with me in the studio. Ronnie, thoughts on that game?
Yeah, just another brilliant performance, you know. He just didn't put a foot wrong, really. Just incredible, really, how he just seems to be doing it match after match, you know. He's playing a lot of matches. And, you know, when you've got a Q action like that, you know, you can play like that, you know. So, yeah, it's just a phenomenal performance.
We talk about the percentages, no 96% pot success. Let's talk about actual pots. He missed 9.
I know, amazing. You know, in 8 frames, you know, it's just, I don't think he can improve. I think he realised himself that he can't improve, but he can just make that consistent, and that's the difference with him the last season or so. He just looks like he's going to be up for every match and involved in every big tournament. Very hard to beat.
So where's the weakness when he's playing like this?
I think maybe when you're that good a player and you're used to winning games so easily and everything, you know, when he gets in the balls, they go nice because of the way he break bills. I think the only time he struggles is if it goes a bit scrappy and he's not firing on all cylinders, only because he's not used to playing that type of snooker. Whereas Selby is used to having to bat it out and win sort of scrappy sort of frames. Whereas Robertson, probably 90% of the time, it's all like making hundreds and 90s in one visit. So he's not getting enough practice at winning them scrappy frames. So if there is a weakness, I think if it goes like that, he's probably not going to be favourite to win it because he just doesn't play enough of them games, if that makes sense, you know?
I gave him an extra century, by the way. It's 4 in the match and he only had 3. I just assumed it was a century in the last 3, but that's how good he is at the moment.
Yeah, you know, he expects it. And he, as he says a few times in the interviews, he wants to make these century breaks, even in practice. You know, he gets a big buzz out of it. That's why he's made so many this season.
Let's have a look at the centuries this season. Then that was actually a big one. If you look at the scores on the doors as they stand at the moment, there's the trophy they're playing for tomorrow afternoon. And there it is. Neil Robertson's got 38 as it stands at the moment. Judd Trump on 35 for this season. Mark Allen on 23. And there's a bit of a steep drop-off after those two, James.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, you know, just Mark Allen, he won that Champion of Champions, made a few centuries there. Selby's up there. See, John Higgins normally be there. Ronnie O'Sullivan's not there. I don't think he plays in enough tournaments, but you know, it's very high standard stuff.
And you know the whole thing about, well, don't matter, you get a century or 78, you win the frame with it. Every time they've come close to a century and missing this tournament, we've seen them like punch and we've seen them grimace. So I think they're aware, Ronnie, of how close they are and how far ahead they are. You know, natural competitors will compete if you give them any chart.
Yeah, I think since Neil made the 100 centuries, I think it kind of like become like, oh, you know, maybe that's something else to go for, you know, because it hadn't been done before. So maybe that's just how they see it now. The new generation think, well, yeah, let's try and get 100 centuries is a good goal to go for, I suppose.
Let's have a look at all the generations together, Jimmy and Ronnie. This is the all-time list of centuries. It's just a Look at that. Look at the names in that. O'Sullivan up top there with just 1,070. John Higgins drop off to 804. But that's a nice little other battle, of course. Neil Robertson and Judd Trump closing in on Stephen Hendry. They'll both pass him, Jimmy, at some stage. But who passes first?
Yeah, they'll be having a sort of a friendly bet amongst themselves. You know, John Higgins there on 804. You know, I think that's the only thing missing in his game at the moment. He's not scoring so many big breaks, winning so many frames in one visit. But, you know, look at Ronnie O'Sullivan, 1,070. You know, you never thought the 1,000 would be done.
Yeah, well, Robbo's added 3 more centuries this afternoon to his list as he makes his way into the studio at the moment. And just before we talk to him, a quick word, Ronnie, on Zhou Yuelong today. It was fairly predictable, wasn't it? Took a while to settle, the biggest occasion of his career so far, and it happens the most.
Yeah, and I thought he'd done all right, you know, considering he took a bit of a beating in the final when they played. You know, he's come here and, you know, I thought he'd give a good account of himself considering how well Neil plays, you know.
Yeah, and Neil, congratulations. Through to your first Triple Crown final, I think, since 2015, so it must feel absolutely sensational.
Yeah, it does, yeah, but, you know, I've been in plenty of other big finals as well over that period of time, and, yeah, it's just great to see the reward for, you know, the consistent performance I've been putting in this year, and it's another final and another opportunity to win a big tournament.
Consistent's one way to set. Marvellous is another way to set. Again, today, there was just a set of frames that you're untouchable. It was almost just exactly the same as we watched you against Selby. You know, when it's clicked, as we're saying, we're finding it hard to find a problem anywhere, you know?
I mean, the biggest thing that I sort of, watching Ronnie in the Worlds is that I came away from my match against Selby thinking, like, my safety is good, but it's just not putting anyone under pressure. And I was watching Ronnie play safe, and he's opening up the balls and backing himself to get a good white. Then you're asking your opponent to play a great shot in return. And I think I've been doing that this week, where I've been playing the thicker safeties. I've been getting the balls open, so it puts your opponent under a lot of pressure, knowing that if they don't knock in the long red, then I'm going to clear the table. So that's the sort of mindset I've been in this season.
It's brilliant. The top players in the world, world number 3, greatest of all time, always learning, right? That's the key when you're great.
Yeah, I think you always want to learn, you know. I think Neil learnt from Hendry with the break building side, and I'm always looking to other players to see if you can add to the game, and, you know, Neil does that better than anyone. But I was just going to say, like, have you ever felt like you've played as well as this for such a consistent period?
No, never. This is the best I've ever felt in my game.
Yeah, amazing.
Practising consistently. My club's been brilliant. WTs in Cambridge have been absolutely amazing during the lockdown period for me to still be able to play as much as I have been. And yeah, coming here, I like this venue. It's not far from home. Playing in tournaments when you're not flying, you know, there's so much jet lag recovery required usually during a season. We're not doing that, so I think that's why you're seeing a really high standard of snooker.
Like the routine as well, and enjoying it, you know. It's the silver lining in the cloud, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's you know, look, I could probably, maybe one of the 2 finals that I lost, I probably could have grafted that out and played pretty ordinary snooker to watch, but maybe I would have grafted it out. But I don't want to win like that. I want to play the proper way. You know, you watch people like Federer and you know, guys like that, the way they go about it and win trophies. I want to win the right way. I've won enough tournaments, sort of mixing it up, different varieties. But you know, I want to win the right way, and I think that's what's led for me to have a lot of success the last few years, because I've done that.
Well, I've heard Ronnie compared to Federer before, so you're going to have to choose another one. We'll give you Andy Murray or Djokovic or Nadal, but we'll have to fight. We'll pick you another one, and we'll give you that. When you lose a frame from a fluke, you know, when you're well on top of it, another sign of a great mindset is that you just brush it off your shoulder, and you did that today and carried on regardless and banged in 118 in the next frame.
Yeah, the first red was a great shot in the middle. I think, yeah, once that went in, it kind of just like triggered me in a good way. You know, I was like, right, I'm going to, you know, next chance I get, I'm going to finish it off. Because, you know, I missed it was a trickish kind of blue, but I should have knocked it in. And that would have completely frozen him out for 3 frames. So I was a bit dirty with myself that I gave him a chance.
Good. We're just saying you only missed 9 pots today. Because we do the percentages all the time, 96, whatever. Forget that. You missed 9 pots in 8 frames of snooker.
Yeah, and, you know, some of those would have been shots that are kind of irrelevant if they go in or not, you know, shots to nothings or whatever. That's obviously included in the attempt at a pot. But I think pretty much everything I went for that mattered. I think the blue was the only shot I can think of that I actually missed. So everything else went in, and enjoying the way I'm playing, and I'm going to just approach it the same in the final, no matter who I'm playing.
You're absolutely right. So, like, the end of break to win the match is one of those 9, and you start taking them away, and you realise you're only needing one hand to count them, and not all the fingers. It's unbelievable to watch. Let's just have a look at this red that you mentioned. Seeing as you mentioned it, we like to look after our guests when they're in. So take a little look at it. In frame 4, and the black. Here we go.
Yeah, not many players go into them high. Stephen Hendry used to all the time, actually, and I think a lot of players struggle with it. They arc the white around the pack a lot of the time, but I really enjoy playing this type of shot. I think, Ronnie, you prefer to go into them low off the black all the time.
Sometimes, yeah, but it is nice if you can get high on it and get a solid hit on it, because you can bust them open as well. But, I mean, I don't think there's any shot he don't like, the way he hits the ball. I'm just saying the cue action, I do love a cue action, but I've never seen one. No, I'm being serious, you know. It's a serious subject when I'm talking about cue action, but that cue action is ridiculous. And I don't want to make him feel like embarrass him here, but there's no one in the history of the game that's ever cued like that. No one, because he can play power shots and soft shots. So he's, some people just all out power, and then when they've got a touch, it's like they ain't got it. But he's just got, it's just, I'm jealous.
It was something that we were going to look at, because, in the mid-session, well, you won't know, but in the mid-session, we'll have a little chat about what happened, and rather than just go through every frame, we'll do something on the table. And one of the suggestions was, let's replicate Robbo's stance. Let's look at his cue action, and Ronnie was like, can't be done.
Listen, this is a really hard game, and sometimes you play well, but I would have a bet that if you were to ask Neil that, he'd go, no, it's a really easy game, but sometimes it becomes hard. With that cue action, it's just, that's how it is, and it's like he's cruising at 160 miles an hour, where other people, he's in that form every day. I would suggest, it doesn't dip
when I'm
much.
practicing, it's like that all day.
I can't imagine
it for a long period of time.
Yeah. Pretty relentless, really.
Unbelievable. So listen, a tiny advantage, do you think, to play in the afternoon rather than the evening? You can just as you say, will you go home if you're that close, or will you just get the hotel?
I'll stay up, I think. Just completely sort of relax. Maybe just go to the supermarket, get some bits and pieces to sort of stock up for tomorrow. Just watch the football and just chill out. Not going to sort of rush back home or anything like that.
I was going to ask you to make the choice, Chelsea or Judd. What are you watching?
Oh, the football all day long. Yeah.
Thanks very much.
You start watching snooker, and all of a sudden 2 hours can fly by, because you think, just one more frame or something, and then something happens, and then you think you've wasted your advantage of having like the night off before a final. So I never ever watch the snooker ever.
Brilliant. It's the only sport you hear anyone say that. I never ever watch the sport.
Not that I don't like it. I love the game.
We get that.
Home, Ronnie's playing, or Higgins, or something where if I feel as though I can learn, I'm not going to watch it for the sake of watching it. Unless it goes to a decider, then all the players are like vultures, aren't they? Watch a decider.
We're always looking to learn as well, especially when it comes to health. So what is in the green juice? Let us know because we're assuming that's the key to everything this week. The magic green juice.
It's just an innocent smoothie from Tesco's. I love them. I get like 12 of them before I come, and then I know I'm set for the week then. So, Graham Dott walked past me when I was drinking it in the tournament office, and he said it looked like bile. So
Jimmy used to drink something the same colour. WKD used to have that in the corner as well.
That's another thing, though. If you look at Neil before he went, vegan, he was a bit chubby in the face, and you look at him now, he looks fitter, much fitter and much healthier.
Ooh.
And if you walk along the corridor of the hotel, all you can see is Nando bags and bags of chips, and you know it's from snooker players, and you think. Yeah. That's what, when we're talking about get to that level, the reason why they're not at that level is because they're eating too many Nandos and they're eating chips, and they're not. No, I'm being serious, because this is a business.
Just going to point out,
this is a business, and he's investing in himself.
Yeah.
And when you invest in yourself, you can produce that. But when you're a bit lackadaisical, your preparation and how you approach it, you get mediocre results. So this is why, this is not just about snooker, as far as I'm concerned. It's about what you put into yourself.
Absolutely. And just going to point out, just to make sure we're on the safe side, Nando's, you can get low-calorie butterfly chicken, broccoli.
Yeah, but it's not great,
I'm just saying, I believe you. I know the snooker players ain't choosing the broccoli as the side. They're choosing the peri-peri chips. You're right, but I'm just pointing out for legal reasons there's healthy things.
I've Nando's, and I need to lay down for 3 hours. You know what I mean? I just don't feel that. I don't feel like I can concentrate.
Yeah. But you're all good grilled chicken, vegetables, rice. You're always like a good Turkish meal, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's important to look after yourself, because he is the property. It's like he can't pick somebody else to go and play for him. So if he doesn't eat right and gets out of bed and you don't feel right, that's taken away from him achieving what he needs to achieve. So you have to invest in yourself. And all the great players, Davis has done it, Stephen Hendry, You know, and Neil's following that sort of groove, you know.
Yeah, it's rarely I can say at the end of a post-match interview that we've covered everything, but we genuinely have covered everything.
Djokovic done it, you know. He went, so, you know, he changed his diet, and then all of a sudden he can't stop winning majors, you know. So it can be just a little thing that the other players should really take notice of, I think.
We've sorted it. Federer, Djokovic. So there we go, perfect ending.
Yeah, but he's in that bracket, you know. Talking to a Djokovic or a Federer, you know, he's up there with that level, you know.
Absolutely. Well done, mate. We'll see you tomorrow for the final.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Enjoy your blue drink tonight. Enjoy Chelsea, because you won't be watching us. But